Heyo, Weibo here, your least favorite degenerate, and today I'm gonna be finally giving my thoughts on Persona 2 Innocent Sin. But before we get into the video real quick, I thought I should let three things be known first. One, that I have played and therefore will be reviewing the PlayStation Portable version of this game. Two, there will be spoilers for the game throughout the video, so this is your warning right now. Don't want spoilers. Don't continue any further. Even in non-story related segments, there will be minor spoilers. And three, that everything I say in this video is from my own personal experience and opinions, and that nothing in this video is meant to be a definitive review, hence my avoidance of the word like the plague. Well, with that out of the way, enjoy the video. Since it's the first thing that shows up when you boot the game, I am, of course, going to judge the opening first. Before we get into the big, complicated clusters of spoilers without context that the opening's visuals are, I'd like to say that I enjoyed the track to accompany it immensely. Although it did take a couple listens to fully enjoy it, I found myself never skipping the opening a single time I booted it up. Now, onto the harder part, to describe the visuals. The visuals of this opening did alright in accompanying the fire track behind it, but where it really exceeds is getting the player engaged in the mood of the game perfectly, which is something I heavily appreciate in a game. It captures the overall serious tone of the story as well as sets up a ton of questions that make you want to play the game and find the answers to. And that's not even mentioning the tons of symbolism that can be found throughout. Alright, enough of the opening rambling. Hell, we haven't even touched the gameplay yet. Right off the bat, I want to get this point over with since it's been done to death already. But the game is overall ridiculously easy, to the point I was severely underleveled for most of it, and I was still only challenged by very few specific fights throughout the game. Hell, if I were even smart enough to make a mod, I would rename Easy to Game Journalist, Normal to Baby Mode, and Hard to Easy. Another one of the most jarring differences from Persona 2 to the later titles is the entire structure of battles. First of all, instead of seeing shadows on a 3D map and then choosing to fight them, you instead get random encounters on a 2D floor Pokemon style. Then we get into the actual combat changes that make me question if it's even a Persona game as I knew them before, starting with the SP system. While in later titles SP costs are tied to the skill you want to use, in Persona 2 SP costs are tied to the persona instead, with the more powerful personas having higher SP costs for each attack. Then we have the auto battle system, which is basically necessary to use because manually selecting the entire party's skills is a pain in the ass when the encounter rate is ridiculously high. And finally, we have the ability for the entire party to have and switch out multiple personas, which was actually very interesting to utilize further into the game with the entire strategies around what personas I put on who. While we're on the subject, personas also have a compatibility meter, with more compatible personas having reduced SP costs for skills. Oh yeah, you remember Persona 5's Demon Negotiation? Well, I finally found out that it started in Persona 2, except with a couple caveats. First being that demons have 4 reactions instead of 3, which are happy, eager, anger, and fear, while Persona 5 only has anger, eager, and scared. Typically, you want to make a demon eager in order to have them give you some tarot cards, which enables you to summon personas of the arcana the demon who gave you the tarot cards was. Alright, enough explanation, time for my opinion on the gameplay, which is, drumroll please, I didn't like it. I struggled to enjoy anything other than the boss fights, thanks to the relative ease of the game combined with how dated the combat experience was in general. I can now say confidently that I no longer view Persona 3 as bottom of the barrel when it comes to gameplay terms, and that I would take Tartarus any day of the week over the random encounters of Persona 2. With that over with, we can finally delve into what makes this game special despite the abhorrent gameplay. the story. So, our protagonist Tatsuya starts out in the back of his high school, Seven Sisters, where he's told to find his guidance counselor, and thus begins our journey. Well, that would be the case if I could fucking find where she is. What the fuck? Where am I even? Despite my countless frustrations stemming from my own inability to think, I eventually find her back outside where we started. Once we find her, we're given a note stating that this girl has been kidnapped and will be hurt if he doesn't head over. Alright, so to begin with, holy shit that escalated fast. I don't even know how to describe how quickly that just turned into a conflict. Well, anyway, Tatsuya makes his way over to the supposed hostage situation. And you may have noticed I chose to use the word supposed in my last sentence. And this is because there was no hostage to begin with. Instead, this was a ploy by Ikichi's friends in order to lure Tatsuya over so they could ask him to join their band. Yup. This kind of shit is so ridiculous, I genuinely can't help but loving moments like these. Anyway, after that shabacle, they end up fighting and all pass out. They then awaken to meet Philly Cheesesteak, who kindly dumps exposition onto our protagonist. After some weird cryptic shit, they wake up on the floor where they initially passed out. They all get this idea that in order to confirm what they all saw was real, they should try out another thing from a rumor that has been going around called the Joker Game. The Joker Game is a ritual to summon this entity who calls himself Joker, and if you're able to tell him your desires, he will grant them for you. However, if you're not able to do so, then he'll just kindly yoink your entire essence for you. You didn't need it anyway. When they summon him, however, something peculiar happens. The Joker instantly recognizes Tatsuya, Lisa, and Ikichi, and goes off about obtaining his revenge upon them. Of course, this confuses them all, and the Joker comes to the only logical conclusion that they don't remember the innocent sin they committed, thus letting them go and vowing to get his revenge the day they remember said sin. Once that occurrence ended, they decided to go around looking for more strange rumors and occurrences, where they end up at Seven's to investigate the Emblem Curse. The Emblem Curse is a rumor spread around by various students, where instances of Seven's school emblem causes some very bad things to happen. Once they arrive at the front of the school, they witness students getting obliterated for having the badge still on their uniform. And after seeing this, they all decide to head to the principal's office to try and get some answers. When they head over, they're met with an empty office. Huh, that's pretty strange and definitely not a sign of anything funny. You know, not like they've been fighting literal demons in the halls of the school or anything up to this point. No, not at all suspicious. Well, instead of the principal, two others show up behind our party, who go by Yukino and Maya respectively. They introduce themselves as some news reporters looking for a good story, and decided to stick with the main party to continue finding interesting developments. Oh, yeah, might be important to mention that they're also Persona users. After they join, the party gets wind of the principal's whereabouts, which is in the school's clock tower? What a weird place to go for totally normal principal duties, am I right, guys?
Ooh, you suck.
Alright, fine, I get it. The bit isn't funny. I'll move on. Well, if my sarcastic comments didn't give it away, we find the principal in the clock tower with Joker from just a bit ago. There we learn that he was granted his desire of being a beloved principal by Joker before engaging the first boss fight of the game. After the party makes quick work of him, he decides that suicide is badass and jumps out of the clock tower. They then go rumor hunting again when they meet some people at a detective agency who will spread around rumors for a price, which is an invaluable game mechanic that I chose to completely fucking ignore because I'm a dumbass. Please don't play it this way. It's a stupid idea. Oh yeah, and if you didn't pick up on it before, it's the rumors that are being spread that end up shaping reality. For example, our party uses a rumor to make a ramen shop owner sell weapons. Anyway, after that, Akichi is confronted and pretty much told that someone else has taken him over as some sort of leader. So naturally, the party has to run over him to said leader's position. Once they arrive, Tatsuya is given an option, which is to either interfere and stop Akechi from getting his shit kicked, or do nothing. And, well, since I was too dense to understand that this was an important decision for Akechi's persona, I decided to help him out and fight the optional boss, being the leader. Well, it turns out that doing nothing was actually the correct decision, as each character will be given a struggle, and it's up to you to either allow them to face it themselves or to interfere. So in essence, I interfered, and that is why I did not get Akechi's first special persona. Once that fight is over, we learn that this was the work of a student council president of Akechi's school, which has been nicked Cuss High. So we head over there next. Once we reach there, they track down clues until they find out he's in the basement of the school. Once the party goes down and into the air raid shelter that's just kind of vibing under the school for no particular reason, they realize a little too late that they've been duped, since they just fell for a trap and entered the rumored unescapable shelter. So, as you can guess, the party takes this information very well, and Tatsuya decides to sleep on it. While he's asleep, we get to see a cutscene of Tatsuya and this other guy called Jun as kids, and their exchange of two key items, Tatsuya's watch and Jun's lighter. Then he wakes up and the party is reminded that there's actually one instance of someone escaping, where they specifically used a mirror to do so. Once they pull out a reflective object after breaking their only mirror, they're able to see a previously hidden door that leads outside. Absolutely pissed that they just got trapped in a school basement, the party rushes up to the top floor of Cuss High and proceeds to bully the student council president relentlessly. Once he's defeated, we learn that he joined an organization called the Mass Circle, which brings up memories of weird dreams both Akechi and Lisa have had involving said Mass Circle. Once he's done saying useful stuff to our party, higher-ups in the Mass Circle come and burn him to a crisp. After their main lead onto Joker and the Mass Circle died in front of them, they search around for more rumors regarding it. From the information they gathered, they head over to a place called Muses for further investigation. Once they arrive in Muses, our party is conveniently selected to be extras in a music video being produced there, thus giving them access to the back door. After recording, the idols talk to Lisa, who, even to her own shock, is revealed to be the secret third member. Lisa immediately turns them down and rejects being an idol. However, she's given an option to come with them to Giga Macho if she changes her mind. So, naturally, the entire party decides to go, since Lisa's friends suddenly becoming idols is a little suspicious. When they arrive at Giga Macho, Lisa has to join them in order for the group to get a better lead onto the Mass Circle. So, after that, they need to head onto the concert hall in Oba in order to investigate the Mass Circle as well as Joker further. Once they arrive, they catch up on time to hear Lisa and the idols' conversation, which boils down to Lisa admitting she isn't actually bilingual, to which the idols respond by trying to get her to get assistance from Joker. After that cutscene, we get the option to either go rescue Lisa or leave her be, in which this time I chose to leave her alone. Once the decision was made, people start filling the auditorium and the show goes on. However, near the end, Akechi finds bombs under the seats of the concert, and of course, they try and get everyone evacuated, which only works after Lisa takes notice and spurts out that there are bombs. After everyone evacuates, they're stopped by the director, who is actually a higher-up in the Mass Circle, as well as King Leo, who left behind a clue to the next place to be destroyed. And we get another boss fight. Once he's dealt with, the party looks for King Leo's said clue, and once finding it, leaves the auditorium. Right as they leave, we get a cutscene of the auditorium blowing up, as well as Maya having a panic attack seeing the building ablaze. They then run into Miss Ideal, who after noticing they know something related to the Oracle of Maya because of the Mass Circle, accuses them of being in this last battalion and leaves. Using this riddle, they decipher that the next target is a place called Smile Hirosaka, and they run over there. Once they are there, they all meet in the bathroom where they agree to split up and search for bombs around the building. But after no luck in doing so, they end up returning to the bathroom to find a detonator with the janitor. After taking the detonator, they're confronted by Belphegor and this girl that goes by Ixquick? How do I pronounce that? Alright, anyways, after destroying yet another child's dreams, they get another riddle along with a detonator. And after deciphering another riddle, their next destination is a club called Gold. They then go through the process of finding a transmitter in the riddle yet again. However, a strange guy walks in and makes a run for it after seeing them. So they chase him into the gym where we would have fought him if not for Maya's roommate coming in to do that herself. Anyway, they finally decide to read the last riddle, but instead of a cryptic riddle, the only words to line the page are, "I'll be waiting at the Aerospace Museum in Konan." So, after debating if it's a trap, they decide they have no other choice but to go. Upon reaching the museum, they find out that it's on a day where there's an ongoing field trip in the museum. So they round up all the kids and head to the rooftop of the burning building. On the way up, they find Ixquick there, and Maya decides to go up and save her. Here, Tatsuya is given another decision, to either look for a rope like Maya asked, or to save her yourself. Of course, the correct decision here is to look for the rope and leave it to Maya, which I did. Then, as you pull Maya up, a cutscene plays showing Maya almost falling but then being saved at the last second. However, the more important scene plays right after, showing an insane man laughing in front of a burning shrine whilst a girl lays on the ground screaming for Tatsuya. After that's over with, the party heads up to the rooftop, making sure no kids are missing, and then they meet King Leo. There, he's taken Ixquick hostage and reveals his face, the same insane man we saw in the previous flashback. Right after, however, he reveals that he also has another transmitter and sets it off, blowing up all the buildings the party had visited thus far. After that, he rants his nonsense, then falls down through a destroyed chunk of building. Luckily, since they're at an aerospace museum, there's a blimp that's rumored to be operable at the roof. So they grab the kids and head to it. Once on the blimp, Maya takes control of it, and probably one of my favorite scenes of the game plays. As the blimp is starting to crash, none other than King Leo himself shows up and starts a fight. After putting him in his place, they now have to worry about the impending doom of a crashing blimp. So they decide to try jumping with the kids whilst having their personas take the force of the landing. Once reaching land, Maya gets a call that rumors are being spread that they were the ones who blew up all the buildings. So they decide to fight fire with fire and tell the kids to tell people how they saved them as a counter to the rumors. They then leave and head over to the detective agency for some help, where they find Miss Ideal again and get to explain how they are not actually part of this last battalion she mentioned earlier. She then explains to the party how the last battalion is actually a technologically advanced army of Nazis and how Hitler, the Führer, actually never died. Whilst she's explaining things to the party, she mentions the mass circle, which causes Lisa to lose it and calls her a liar, and stating that her dream was actually real. Lisa then ends this rant by begging them all to come to Alea's shrine. Once they arrive at the shrine, Lisa explains the rumor of the girl who died at the shrine, and states that they know who that girl, or Big Sis, is. Then, after Maya suggests to Lisa to put herself at ease for her sin by praying at the shrine, Philly Cheesesteak yoinks the group into his area. I forgot what it is, please don't kill me. There, Philly Cheesesteak tells them that they are ready to face their past and to head for the cavern behind them to find the truth. In Mount Iwito, they discover their memories through the reflective pools inside. So when they look into their first pool, they see Tatsuya left behind by his brother, when one by one, each of the characters approach him, being Akichi and Lisa, as well as this black masked boy, which we'll get to later. Anyway, after playing for a while, they decide to make a group, which they all agree to call the Masked Circle. Now, this is an absolute bombshell, like holy shit. I'm gonna be honest here when I say that I genuinely did not see that one coming. Now, whether that makes me incredibly dense, or this a good plot twist, I really can't say. But hey, this video is about my experience with the game, and I thoroughly enjoyed the plot from here on. And speaking of it, back to the plot. At the next pool, they see the Masked Circle approach a girl that they call Big Sis, and have her join their friend group. Once she joins the group, she teaches the kids about a game called the Persona game, and I think we all know where this is going. Finally, at the last pool, Big Sis tells them that she has to leave since her parents are moving, and the kids react by locking her in the shrine overnight to try and prevent that from happening. The memory is cut short, however, by Lisa and Akichi crying about killing Big Sis. She then goes on to explain how Tatsuya was locked in too for being against the idea, as well as their discovery of a burnt down shrine when they came back the next day. They then talk about how Tatsuya survived when Lisa interrupts, saying that Big Sis is still alive as well, since there were no bodies found on the site after a police investigation. She then states that Big Sis is actually Joker? Huh? Well, anyway, right after, Maya turns on the party, only for them to be saved by the real Maya. Once it's found out that there's a fake, Joker decides to reveal himself, and Maya calls him by his real name, Jun, the same boy in the first flashback and the black masked kid. She also reveals that she is Big Sis, and that she did indeed survive, to which Jun reacts with hostility, screaming that Tatsuya killed her, and orders Shadow Maya to kill them all, which leads into the hardest fight I've had playing this game. Yet, I persevered and pummeled yet another boss, and after the fight we see an illusionary version of Maya, the one that died on the night, come and tell the real Maya how Jun is suffering from false memories forced upon him. Then, right after, we get a lovely visit from the man, the myth, the legend himself, Philly Cheesesteak. He grants the party the power of their true personas, which, whether or not each member gets them, is dependent on what option you chose in each of their scenarios. After that, he tells the party in order to save Jun, they need to head to Caracal, and just like that, their new destination is set. Once they arrive at Mount Iwato, we are shown it being heavily guarded by Nazi soldiers, and they're given two options. Either barge in through the front, or take the longer and safer route. As you can probably guess, Mama didn't raise no bitch, so I take the direct route. Once we deal with them, we head up the mountain to find some monks who tell Yukino about Fuji, who I presume is her boyfriend, ascending the mountain after witnessing the last battalion's deployment, and she's given his camera. After that, they all continue to climb until they reach the base of Caracal. There, they are found out by these big robots guarding the place, and are forced to fight them. Once the battle is over, we finally get to see this Fuji guy the monks were talking about. But unfortunately, we made it just in time for his death. Once he passes, we're given an option to either let Yukino mourn, or take her along with us, and being extremely empathetic toward a character I never really got to care about dying, I force her to join us in battle. Thing is though, that was somehow the correct decision to make. And immediately after, Philly Cheesesteak comes to Yukino to give her her ultimate persona, cause fuck that guy, I guess. Once that's over with, the party heads into Caracal. When we get far enough into Caracal, we are able to see a flashback to one of Jun's memories. One where our party is actively trying to kill Maya by setting the shrine on fire, whilst Jun is sitting there, hopeless and unable to do anything but watch. They then try to talk to a spirit resembling younger Jun, to convince him that those were false memories to no avail. Further down, we see memories of his grief and rage building as a child. Finally, the party reaches the Rings of Time, the absolute bottom of Caracal. Here, they witness a scuffle between Jun and the Führer, See, the difference is he's got some nice shades. Yeah, I'm also confused why they changed Hitler to Führer. Anyway, that's besides the point. After Hitler with shades and the shadows yoink the skulls, they leave us alone with Jun and we end up fighting him. They then proceed to knock some sense into him. Twice. And he returns to being Jun instead of Joker, and joins the party. He is then faced with his father, who attempts to sway Jun back to the mass circle, in which he refuses, and his father leaves and takes Jun's persona with him. Immediately after, Philly Cheesesteak decides to summon them all, and warns them of an impending, cruel fate they will suffer, as well as transferring Yukino's persona ability to Jun. His last action of their meeting was to upgrade some of the party's personas as well. Once they get back to the shrine, they agree the best course of action now would be to get all the skulls from their fakes to prevent the end of the world. Next, we have to go to various temples around the game to collect the skulls. So I first go to the Aquarius Temple, where at the end the party fights some more Nazi robots and yoinks the Wind Crystal Skull. Next, we go to the Scorpio Temple, where at the end we find Akichi's shadow with Miyabi. There, it's revealed that she joined the Mass Circle in order to lose weight after she bullied Akichi for his weight as a kid, only for him to become much skinnier than her in the future. Then, after some more truths being told, Akichi charges into battle with himself. Well, this is probably as good a time as any to clarify that when I mentioned the shadows as fakes, it was to easily differentiate them, since in essence they are a very real side of each of the characters manifested into a physical form. With that explained, upon defeat, Akichi's shadow exclaims that he will never be gone, to which we get the best line response I've seen to a shadow. Cool with me. I already know that you're me. This line was just perfect at illustrating his acceptance of his shadow as a part of him, as well as remaining in character. Then, after the battle, we get a nice wholesome scene and collect the Water Crystal Skull. Once we finish up there, the next stop is the Leo Temple, and once our party reaches the end, they meet Shadow Tatsuya. When confronted, Shadow Tatsuya immediately goes for Tatsuya's insecurities about his future, and tells him that it's much easier to walk the path already paved. To this, we can either reject his idea, or agree with it. In which, I agree with Tatsuya's shadow, and he says that it's obvious since he is his shadow. He then states that Tatsuya probably hates Jun, to which he responds that he would have done the same thing if he were in Jun's situation. Right after, his shadow calls him weak and initiates a battle, and the party makes swift work of him. They then collect the Fire Crystal Skull and head to the next temple, the Taurus Temple. At the end, we meet yet another shadow, this time belonging to Lisa. Her shadow tells us about all of the terrible shit she's done for the sake of popularity and rebellion. She then agrees with her shadow, but tells her that she's changed. Shadow Lisa then engages in fisticuffs and takes the fattest L so far. Anyway, after the battle, she admits her feelings to Tatsuya, and with the options we're given... Wait a minute. A Persona game where the protagonist can be gay? Finally, we found it, boys!
Jun, fuck me, please.
Anyway, once we're done with that, Lisa collects the Earth Crystal Skull, and we head to Zabalba through Naruto Stone at Sevens after getting a call that Miss Ideal has been kidnapped and likely being used for a sacrifice. Once we hop into the weird portal where the stone used to be, the party ends up at a river that has a conveniently left behind boat for us to use. Unfortunately, Maya decides to pilot something again with the same rationale as before. I have a driver's license, this can't be much different. We promptly crash. Luckily, the boat isn't that destroyed, so Tatsuya takes over and drives the boat into a waterfall. Well, what did I really expect from a high schooler? Well, lucky us. Turns out Zabalba was right at the bottom of the waterfall, and our party prepares for their final push to the truth. Well, that is until Akichi's ego almost gets everyone killed. Once we get past that trapped room, the party heads to Imix Hall, where we get another flashback. We see a memory of them all looking at stars through a telescope when Akichi mentions that Jun must be so lucky for having a dad that would let him use that, and the rest of the group starts talking about their fathers. They then ask Jun what his dad is like, and he describes him as a great father, just when two kids walk up and call him a liar and that his mom calls his dad a deadbeat. And both past and present June are visibly uncomfortable with this occurrence. In fact, June starts to break down before being calmed down by Maya. After everyone's ready, they all head to the Ick Hall next, only to find a bunch of dead Mass Circle goons as well as the obliterated corpse of Miss Ideal's kidnapper, Prince Taurus. After passing by the massacre, they reach Akbal Hall, where they run into another trap. This time, a room that heats up with them inside. Lucky for them, the door to the other side is unlocked, and they pass by with ease. Next, they head to Khan Hall, where they get another flashback to their childhood. This time, it's of Maya and her father at the shrine, where Maya prays her father would stay home, but he has to leave for work regardless. In the room, we hear the voice of her deceased father telling her that journalism is a job to be proud of, which was her inspiration to become one. After some short comforting courtesy of Tatsuya,
They go to
Chikchan Hall, where they find two doors that lead to the Velvet Room and Atricious Spring. Anyway, once they're done in there, they start heading toward Matic Hall, where they're given the choice of how far we think we are from catching up, and with me desperately moving upwards and I chose the shortest option possible. After that, we reach Lamont Hall, where we meet more Nazi robots and swiftly defeat them. Once we're done in there, the party heads to Mulek Hall, where Maya explains to the party that she's made a discovery regarding this place, that thoughts will sometimes become reality, but she admits she's still clueless on to why some become reality whilst others don't. And of course, Akichi being Akichi, decides to think about his worst nightmare, his father. So now we gotta fight a metal version of his dad, although it really wasn't that eventful. Well, now that that's over with, it's time to head to Oak Hall. And if there is another metal parent, I am going to hurt someone. Oh, okay. It's just a neat flashback where the party gets to meet June's dad for the first time. There's also the implication that his mother's at least not good to June because he's shown openly his fear of her. Wait a minute. He's afraid of his... God damn it, another metal parent! And on top of that, she can only be damaged with physical moves, which I don't have, and this fight took me an hour. Ah! Anyway, once we're done dealing with June's mom, we reach the cryonics room. There, we finally find Miss Ideal, but unfortunately, she doesn't understand that the aliens in this room are a creation of her own mind, and thus acts absolutely crazy, leaving us to fight them alone. Oh boy, if I had to give a fuck this battle because the stupid fucking status effects inflicted nearly every turn, this fight would win in a landslide. With my frustrations aside, the party now has one final destination, the heart of Zabalba. Once entering, we meet none other than Shady Hitler himself. Please laugh, I need a self-esteem boost. And after he reveals the skulls are practically worthless, fights the party, and after sending him back to hell, he transforms to reveal who he really is, being Nyarlathotep, taking form as a false version of June's father. He then reveals that it was June's desire for his father after his death that led him to take that form. He also brings their souls to torment him further until the party decides to take him on and start the final fight of the game. Which was extremely underwhelming if I'm gonna be honest. Even with my entire party being underleveled, I didn't feel risk at losing once during the entire fight. Well, at least what happened afterward is far more interesting. Speaking of which, Philly Cheesesteak arrives and starts talking to Nyarlathotep about how humans are good test cases and explains to everyone that they are both sources of people's souls and that Philly leads those with strong wills, whilst Gnarly over here drags the weak into the abyss. This was all revealed to be a test of humanity, and Philly tells the party if humanity were more like them, they could reach a state of near perfection. Gnarly then pipes up and says that he's really the one in control, and the best Philly can really do is watch, then proceeds to stab Maya with an infinity bleeding spear just to flex his power. Then we have a real emotional scene with everyone huddled around Maya, watching her die slowly. Once she passes, Nyarlathotep finally puts his plan into action and completely destroys the world. Once he's done, he gloats about being an unstoppable shadow of humanity as a whole and then leaves. However, all hope is not lost, as Philly Cheesesteak has one last option for them to take, which is to erase the day everything started, the day they all met as kids that one summer evening. Eventually, they all agree to go along with this and vow to each other that they will meet again. Once that took place, we're back to where we started all over again, with Tatsuya working on his motorcycle in the back of the school, and this time we get to see all the others doing their own things independent from one another. That is, until they all stop at the same station, with Tatsuya and Maya crashing into each other, thus ending the story to be picked up again by eternal punishment. By the way, have you been on such a long tangent that it takes up 8 pages of a Word document? Yeah, it's about time we move on to other thoughts about the game, specifically my opinions on the characters. Let's start off with our main character, Tatsuya, and how interesting I find him. I enjoyed watching his demeanor change throughout the game as he developed as a character, with him going from this untouchable badass to a caring friend with his actions throughout the story. However, what interests me more is his role as a silent protagonist and how he beats out the others in having a more defined character, which is something I love to see. His actions and responses throughout the game just make him feel more like a character you just so happen to control instead of a blank slate that we got for Persona 5's character. Hell, so far he's the only main character I know to have a canonical name in the game they come from, instead of an anime or manga adaptation. Oh yeah, and it'd be a shame not to mention this.
Close your eyes.
Guess who's next? If you guessed the best comic relief character of Persona, you would be absolutely correct. It's Akechi. Well, that was certainly a bold statement to start this part with, but I'll stand by it since I believe that each of the humor characters of the games reflect the game's overall humor very nicely, and that I thoroughly enjoyed what this game had to offer in that department, rather than the continually unfunny, ha 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 ha, hot spring scene funny humor we get in later titles, which even calling it humor would be a stretch since it's a whole lot more akin to fan service than anything. Anyway, the humor in this game is, well, actually great from the absolute comical nature of some demon negotiation options like Akechi pulling out a mic from nowhere to sing, or the superior character dynamics creating fun moments, as well as a welcome break in between the story. Hell, even the serious moments have a lot of substance to them, and I genuinely found him way more enjoyable to watch than Yosuke and Ryuji combined. With my several hot takes out of the way, the characters weren't all sunshine and rainbows, since we got Lisa, who I believe is incredibly weak in terms of development. Throughout the game, I never really got to be able to care about her character, since she was simply heavily underutilized in the context of the greater narrative. Then we have Yukino, which I think is basically another Lisa with one caveat, that I think her leave at the major turning point in the story was executed fantastically. The way her time with our party felt over, as well as the introduction of June, was timed really, really well, and I appreciate the character for that at the least. I like June a lot as a character. I think the focus of he got in the story really made him feel flushed out, and his actions more or less have weight and reason behind them. It's really nice how his development didn't just abruptly end with him becoming Jun again, but instead he slowly sort of pieces himself back together and faces off with everyone else against his own desire for this great and living dad. He really felt like someone more whole, per se, once the story concluded. And finally, we have Maya, which was a pretty great character, with her behavior constantly evolving and depending on based on what's happening. For example, how learning about June being Joker kind of ignites her kind personality even more than it already was. She also played the important role of role model for everyone else and heavily inspired the characters to make their great moments happen. Hell, even before they knew exactly who they were in relation to each other, Maya was like an anchor to the entire group, and that made her death at the end such a shocking moment. What seemed stable, still, and sturdy was on the floor bleeding with no end, with the characters left to make their own resolve. Her death sparked such movement, even from the lesser characters, which I respect immensely.
Hey, and thanks for watching the video. It took a lot of time to make. In fact, probably a little too long, considering the fact that I don't really think it's all that great, but hey, at least it's gotten out now. You know, sorry for that, like, month of no uploads. But, you know, things are kind of getting better. I'm done with the video, obviously, because you're seeing it. And, yeah, just kind of wanted to say that, you know, just kind of get a little bit of a closer off. And, yeah. So, yeah, see you next time. It's been Weibo. Peace.